All right, good morning. Today we're going to talk about some graphic reviews and we're going to go over some of the lessons on uh, it's going to include inserting graphics and smart art and word art and borders and inserting a video and all kinds of stuff. So I have a document open up here on my screen. So what we're going to do is just follow along. This is one of the answer keys actually that for I think it was 64. So at the end of 64, but we're going to work beyond that and we're going to continuously insert things into this document. So this will end up changing the document completely and making it much larger and all that stuff. So first thing I need to make sure I do is make sure the autosave is off, and I'm going to, whenever you're playing with a file, save a copy. So I'm going to save this one as class demo, and I'm going to save it. So now what's happening, this one name changed to class demo, and you can change yours to anything, version 1, version 2, version 3. But if your autosave is on, all your changes will be saved in this document. But if you make a total mess of this document and you want to start over from before you started inserting anything, you would just go back to your original one, which was 64-1D in this case. So as you work through something and you're not confident that the next step is going to go as smooth for you, it's a good idea to save it all the way through and just change your versions. And then when it's all done, you can just delete your previous versions so that your files don't become jumbled and a complete mess. But that way, if you make a mistake or if something totally goes out of whack, you don't have to start over. You only got to start from step 7, say, if you're inserting is at step 8. So that's my tip for today. And let's see, get my mouse on my screen. Here we go. So this one starts with inserting pictures. So if I'm going to just scroll down to the bottom because there is a picture already inserted. I'm sure probably everyone knows how to insert pictures, but we're going to talk through some of the things about pictures. So if we go to insert on our insert tab and then pictures, there's a drop arrow. So if you hit your drop arrow, you can choose where you would like to get the pictures from. You can choose this device, which means there is a photo on your computer that you want to use. Stock images, meaning that there's a bunch of images that Microsoft has that you can use for free, and there should be no copyright issues whatsoever with these. And you can work your way through them and pick whichever one you need. And you can also search for whatever you're looking for. And then there's also the option of online, which allows you to go outside and search different websites and different things. A lot of these, you're going to have to double check the copyright, and you may have to give credit to whoever's picture it is. So there is a difference in your stock pictures and taking a picture offline. And if you're just going into Google and searching for pictures or images, you may also need to credit that. There is a lot of new rules about copyright issues for photos and stuff on the internet now. So that's something you should have a look at. So we today are going to use an image on my computer because I'm going to insert a picture of my puppies. Let's see where I put that. Okay. So I've inserted the picture of my dogs, and that's how you would just insert it. You would just select it and insert it. So first thing you see around the image is these little white dots. These are your grab handles. So once your grab handles, if you pick a corner one, you can choose to shrink your image. So my picture is pretty big, so I'm going to shrink it down. So you can also choose under the picture formatting, you can choose the size right here. This is if you want to change the size of your image to a certain thing. So if, for example, in your assignment, it was said, nope, you have to have it a 4 inches, you would just hit 4 and it would automatically resize it to 4 inches for you. So this is how you get an exact size. If you wanted to crop something out of the picture, like if the picture just didn't work, it was too big, you would use this crop button right here and you would choose the crop and then you would get the black handles. So these are your cutting handles, your drag handles. So if you choose one in the middle, you're just going to pull in the direction that's in. So a middle black button will allow you to crop left and right or top to bottom. So if I want it to crop down, that handle is the one I would use. If I choose a corner one, it goes both directions. It goes top and down. And you got more you can design, you can drag it around. You can shape it any way you want from a corner one, but from I guess jumped. Um sorry. I'm looking at the wrong screen again. So everything is off. So once you're using these handles, it changes how you want to place them and where you want the shape of it. So I'm going to make this one a little smaller and we're going to crop it. And there you go. So now it's cropped in and it just shows what I want the image to show. So this is how we insert the images from online or from your computer and how we can change the size and how we can change the um, position of it. An image can also be centered. You can just use your alignment buttons that's on your home tab. So if you want it left aligned, right aligned, or centered, you can do that right from your little buttons here. But one thing that's really important is this button. So if you're not familiar with the layout buttons, this one is life changing. Once you hit the layout buttons, you're going to be given some options. A lot of times you're trying to position a picture somewhere and it just won't go where you want it to go. You want it over here in this corner, right by these words, so that it just looks like it's supposed to. And no matter what I do, I can't click, I cannot drag it over, I cannot drop it, it's not moving. That's because of the layout options. So if you click your layout options, you have the option of square, which means the words on your document will fit squarely around your image. You have tight, which means the words will fit tightly to your image. Not so obvious when your image is a square, but if you inserted an image that didn't have a background that was an oval or a shape of a person and the words will fit the edging properly, this is the one you're going to use is tight. You have through, which means the words will go right through it. So it'll just make itself up and I'll demonstrate the tight. So if we position it here, and then if we did the square one, and then if we did top and bottom, and then if we did behind text, that would mean that the text will write directly in front of it. Move this image. So sometimes if you just want your words to just go over the top of an image, you would use behind text, and in front of text is one, and that one means your image will cover up text. So you have to be very careful if you're using the in front of. The one I'm usually will gravitate to is either tight or through. And if I do that, and then I want to position my image to the side of my document, the words will adjust automatically to that image. Whereas before, no matter what I did to try and drag that image over, it just wouldn't work. So your layout tabs right here, your layout options, this button is super important. Okay, it can also be found right up here where the text wrap. So play with that, figure out which ones work for you, and that is very important. So that allows you to position your images around on your page. So next we're going to jump into some word art. So this is a word art right here. So I'm just going to go right below it and we're going to insert a word art. So when we need to insert a word art, we're going to go insert and we're going to find word art. Now, word art is located over in the text box and it's the fancy A. So once you click the insert word art, you're given some options of coloring and shapes and letters that you want to use. So once you pick it, you can just type in your document and there you have your new word art. This can be used a lot in newsletters or posters or flyers, brochures, anything like that. But once you have it created, this is when you can change your styles under your word art styles. Excuse me. And you can pick a different color, a different font. You can choose color schemes here. You can choose your fill options. You can play with everything. So this is your fill color if I wanted it blue, your outline color if I wanted my outline color to be black. You can change it and then you have your shadow color and all of this stuff you can choose. And this is just things you have to play with. You have to work your way through them and see which ones you're going to use, which ones you're going to like, which ones you're going to find useless. Some can create blurry images behind, but these tools are enhancing tools. These tools will enhance how your document looks and the way you want it to look. So it's very unique to yourself. It's very up to you how you choose your images. Now, if you're working for a company, of course, you're going to have to follow what the company or your bosses prefer, but you can provide options. You can stretch your text, you can do all kinds of stuff. You can align it to top, middle, bottom. So play around with the word art, play around with some of the word art designs, some colors, some features, some shadowing, and get familiar with the different options in word art. Smart art. Now, you've probably used smart art in presentations or in some, even in PowerPoint. It's the exact same thing. It works the exact same way. So I am going to put in a new blank page and we're going to insert some new smart arts. So once you are looking to insert a smart art, you're going to go into your insert button and smart art is on the illustrations group. So once you choose a smart art, there is a list of all the different types. Now, this is important because in your assignments and different things, you may see where we tell you, please insert a smart art from the list group or from the hierarchy group. This is what we want you to do. So if I tell you to choose one from the hierarchy group, you have to first click on the hierarchy group and then you have your options. So if we chose the relationship group is another, like you can choose any group as long as it's what you're asked to choose. So once you insert your smart art, then you can change it however you need to. You can do the same thing with the layout options. If you want it to be in line with text, if you want it to go through your text, if you want to be able to position it to the left of your text, it's all available right here in your smart art in the layout options. And then you can choose your text that you want to put in it. So if I said we're covering DM and oops, and we are covering CP classes, which is the Excel, and we're going to discuss some OF. So this would be your 3 classes. Sizing and everything would work the exact same way. So you can reduce the sizing and then you can choose where you want to position it based on what you've set up for your shapes. You can make your arrows bigger. You can make your arrows smaller. You can play around with these. But the important thing to remember with these is the style that you're choosing. Oops. You have to click on the border of them, double click on the border to allow different styles. So once you double click on the border in your Smart Art design box, your toolbar right here will open for you. There's different options that you can choose. So this is different layouts in the same group. So these are all in the group that we chose. So we need to be careful which one we're choosing. This is a process one again. So if we choose process, which is if that's what's asked, then you can switch it around and you can choose different styles and see which one. I'm going to pick this one because of the shape of it gives you a good idea of what I just said with the tight. It'll shape for you around the actual image instead of just being square. So once you're into this, and you're into your Smart Art design, you can choose pretty much any feature you're looking for. You can choose your layout and you can choose your style. So if you would like to have it more fancy or 3D or different layouts, there's all kinds of ways that you can choose to set it up. So really it's in the eye of the beholder pretty much. So you're just going to pick something that you would like and you think will enhance your document. So there's your Smart Art. Work through that. That's lesson 64 and play with some of the features. And don't just stick to what the book is telling you to do. Actually explore it. And like I said, save your document so that you can keep adding new things to it and become really familiar with the positioning and how to move it around and what has to be done to it. Okay. So where am I to? All right, so I think I have covered off most of the word art and smart art. So I'm jumping into lesson 65 and going into the graphic features. So in the graphic features, we have page borders. So if we're starting with a page border, we have our page here. I'm going to just go ahead and center this and position it where I want it. And what I'm going to do now is choose a page border. So in the insert is where we got the illustrations and also where we got the text. But we have to go into the design tab to get where the watermarks and page colors and page borders are, which is the things we're going to be covering right now. So if we're starting with page borders and we open up our page borders, this is where we can choose different shapes and images we want. So if we go into here and we say, okay, we just want to put on a shadow border and we want to change the thickness of the line to be a little thicker and we want the color of it to be orange because there's things orange in our page and we say, okay, then we will get a page border with some orange going around it, which would give us a nice look, especially for a newsletter or a flyer. If we go back and we say, I'm not sure about that, let's see what else we can come up with. We can go through these lines here, the line styles, and we can choose different line styles to see how that will enhance our document. And if we're not sure again, we can change the color or we can change the width of them to make it more loud and more bold. So that will be your basic page border. And we also have the option of choosing art. So if you're doing a Valentine's flyer, because Valentine's is coming up, you can choose page border in art form. And then you would have these options here to choose from. Be careful with these. These are, some of them are pretty tacky, to say the least. And yeah, they're not used so much, but depending on what you're doing and what you're advertising, you can find some pretty cool ones and you can enhance your document pretty cool. So, like everything, just be careful and don't overkill it. So, this is setting a page border. Now, you also have the option of a paragraph border. So, if you select a paragraph and you went back into borders, you can just choose borders instead of the full page border. You can choose border. So, if you said, I want this in a box to highlight this paragraph, and then you would say, okay, the box, the border would just be applied to that paragraph. And all the same features apply to that. As long as you select what you're doing and you make sure you are in the borders tab and not the page borders tab, you can choose all the same things. You can choose the line style you want. You can choose the color. You can choose how thick you want the line. Well, you can choose how thick you want the line if it's not a specific graphic line. And then you can say, okay, and then a border will go around your paragraph. Now, the same thing will happen if you choose page color. So if you want to say, I want my page color to be a different color. So if you're using this, now this is really more important if you're doing an electronic file, because page color and page backgrounds like this, um, in some printers will print, which is massive amounts of ink, and people do not appreciate all their ink being used and all their toner being used to print something like this. So be careful with background. This is more important if you're doing an electronic file, and or if you can turn it off for printing, which you can on some printers. So, but this is exactly how you would apply a page color. So we also have here where we're going to put in a drop cap. So drop caps are used in a lot of um, newsletters. It's a tool that's used to enhance it when we're starting a paragraph. So I'm going to have to remove some things here so I can get some full paragraphs. Let me take off my border here. So I'm going to go into my borders and I'm going to go here and I'm going to choose none. Oh, okay. Let me try that again. Oh, I wasn't in my wrong tab. See, told you guys, you got to watch your tabs. We all do. Okay. So now I've got the page cleaned up again and the tabs are gone. So now we're going to talk about drop caps. So drop caps are back on the insert tab. Once you go into your insert tab, you're back over into your text feature. So right here, the middle on the bottom, you'll see a drop text. So once you choose the drop cap, you'll have two styles to choose from. You can move everything to the margin or you can just use dropped. Or you can go into your drop capped options and you can specifically tell it what you want. If you want it to only drop on 2 lines, 1 line, if you want it to be massive and cover all lines, this is where you would change this. So we're going to go with dropped at 2 lines because it's a small document. And there you go. So this is how you would start off a dropped cap to give it a little pizzazz in a newsletter or brochure, but make sure it's not too big depending on your text. If this was like a 6 or 7 line paragraph, then you could definitely do 3 or 4 lines, which will give it a little zip, but it's not necessary. As long as it's there. So the next thing we're moving into is online videos and how to embed a video into your Word document, which is super, super cool. When you're sending out an electronic file and the video is embedded into your document, then the person can watch the video directly from your document. So this is done right here in the online video tools. So if we click on our online videos, we're just going to get a Dropbox for our embed code. Now, where are we going to get an embed code? Well, just 1 second, I'll show you. I'm going to have to change my screen here. So just bear with me for a second. I'm going to have to share a different window for you. Okay, so what we have here is this is my YouTube channel where I put my stuff for you guys, my videos, my demonstrations and stuff. So once you have a video open on YouTube, you can hit this button right here. Wait, now I have it too big. The share. So if you hit the share, you will see an embed. So if you choose the embed, you're going to get an embed code. So once you see the embed code, you just select the entire thing and you copy it. And once you do that, now I have to switch screens again. Okay, we're back here. So once you select it, and you must copy it, which Control C will copy it for you, or you can just hit the copy button that popped up. Then you need to go back into your Word document. Yep. And you can just go Control V to paste it in, or you can right click and paste it and say insert. And then you wait for Word to do its magic, and Word is going to put it here for you. And once Word inserts it here for you, you get the same features as you did for any other image or picture. So if you click on it, you can change the size of it. You can also choose where you want to position it. And you can choose if you want it in line or square or however you want it positioned on your page. Well, I'm just going to leave mine right there. But because I've embedded it and I hit the play button, Word is going to open it up and play it right from the quick parts, right from the YouTube. So that's a pretty cool little tool to learn. So make sure you play with that. You can pop over to my YouTube channel or any YouTube and grab a picture and an image and pop that in and play with that. So now we have covered off the word art, the smart art, the images, and we are going to pop into some of the backgrounds. So in our document here now, moving right over into lesson 66, and we're talking about backgrounds. So just one. So once we're into the backgrounds, we're going to look at some of the options here for a watermark. So a watermark is in the design tab again, and it's over here with the page background section. So we've covered page borders and we've covered page color. So now we're going to have a look at watermarks. So when you click on a watermark, you are going to get a list of default and pre-made watermarks that Word already has designed for you. So if you're sending this out as a draft, you will click on it and draft will come up in the back of your images. So here's draft going right across your page. Now, if I wanted to choose something else or wanted to create my own, I could remove the watermark and I could go into custom watermark. And this is where I can create my own watermark. So in my watermark, if I chose the text watermark and if I said I'm going to put in this as Roxanne's uh, test document and say OK, that's what's going to go right across my screen. Now I'm going to delete our video so that you can see it better. So this would be all across in behind the images and everything that we have created so that it's there for us. We know it's there. We know this is our test document. When we're finished with this document, we can just remove and we can choose to whatever we need to send it as. If we want to send it as ASAP because we want them to have a look at this ASAP, we can choose that. Or we can choose nothing because now the document is finished, so we just want to remove the watermark. Now, as a way to enhance your document and not as a watermark in the sense that your watermark is telling us something for the most part, you can also choose a watermark as an image. So we would go into the custom watermark and then you can choose a picture watermark. So if you selected a picture, so we'll just select one here. Let's just say dog again. And we'll just pick anyone and insert it. And say apply. We should get a very washed out pale image of the dog in the background. So depending if you were doing a nice flyer for the SPCA or something, this is a cool way because you can work on top of an image, a watermark image, no problem. There's no, you can't rearrange it, you can't position it. It's in the background, it's set. So watermarks and image watermarks are pretty fun to work with when you're doing anything in the graphic design feature or desktop publishing style. Okay, positioning watermark. Page color. There's also in the page color, there's fill effects. And if you choose the fill effects, there is pictures. So you sometimes, a lot of times for swimming lessons, you will see this in the background. This is where this comes from. When people are designing flyers for the swimming pool, for swimming lessons, this water droplet, I'm sure everyone has seen this one somewhere. So that's under the fill effects on the page color. And then under textures, there's pre-made ones. So depending on what you're looking for, there's some pretty cool ones here too. All right, I'm gonna have to clean up my document and turn off my watermark and get us back to something that we can work with. Okay. All right, we're flying right through this stuff. Just give me a second. I'll get ready for the next one. Sorry, guys. My cough is still lingering in the background here for me. So on the Insert tab, you have the text box button. It's over here in the text again. And when you insert a text box, you're inserting a box that you can move around your page, and you can choose your settings and styles and everything, and you can put text in that document. So if we go into our text box, there is some default ones here: left bar, right bar, bottom, fancy quotes. There's all kinds of ones, and you can change them as well. So if we wanted to put in, say, the whisper sidebar, you're going to get this text box appear on the side. So once in there, you have the option to change the text and to put everything in. Now, you're probably going to have to change your positioning and your line spacing, but because this one is set to go through, this one will go right through the document. So we're going to have to be careful with your settings on some of these things. So because you don't want this to be behind it. So you would probably have to work around and resize and change your layouts a bit and work things out. But that's all stuff that you can play with and learn how to do when you're working with this. And it's all the things that I just talked about are all the tools you'll need. So everything you need to learn how to do that is covered right here. So once this document is in, this text box is in place, like this will be really cool on a report or a, not your basic flat MLA, APA, or integrated reports here, but it would be good for um, a special document you were creating or a newsletter or something. And it's just a great way to enhance your document and allow you to put text separately somewhere else. So you can play with the text boxes. You can insert more than one text box into a document. You would just go back to your Insert tab over in your text group, and you would choose another one. And this one's a small one. And you can choose what style, font, and words. You can alter this just like you would any other text. So if I just wanted to put my name, and I wanted my name to be really big, and I want it to be in a fancy font, I can do all this from right here. And then I can make my text box the size I would need it. And I can decide if I want it to have a border or if I don't. So once you go in here, you can double click on your border, or you can just click onto your shape format ribbon that appears. You can choose if you want to have it filled, if you want it to have different shape, if you wanted shadow effects, shape effects, if you wanted it to be beveled, if you wanted it to look like a button. There's all kinds of different options here for you. You can change your text align. You can have it top, bottom. You can change your text direction. You can have it going up and down the side, and then you would just reshape your text box, and the font would change. There's so many different little ways that you can just play around with this. It's it's just a fun little feature, and text box are also super useful. Your layout is also going to be very, very important if you want to be able to position it and move it around. Okay, looks like my word is locked up. There we go. So once your layout is changed, then you can move it around and different things. So playing with text boxes is a great way to help you find out how you can enhance different documents, different newsletters. This is used a lot in brochures and flyers and all kinds of stuff. And it would also be used in some reports that you would write. A lot of times you'll see a text box in something you're reading, which will have one quote from the report. Like it might say, let's just say, it's a condo building that's going up for sale, and you might say 20% discount on condos purchased before February 23rd, and that would be something you would put right in your text box, and then that would carry on in your paragraph. You would say the condo is a booming industry, and with this industry we have decided to blah 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 blah. So there's all kinds of ways that you can use a text box just simply to enhance your document. So hopefully I've covered all those graphics for you. What I'm going to do now is pop over into a new document, and we're going to go over some of the columns and stuff, which is covered in lesson 67. So I'm going to stop sharing this screen, and I'm going to go and open up a new document for you guys. So hold on. Okay. So I've now opened up the document from module from lesson 67. It's found on page 3-72. And previous to that, in that module, you're going to work through how to create this document. And this is the inserting of the images and the shapes around them, and inserting the smart art and the word art and all kinds of stuff is all compiled into this one document. So what we have going on here is we have some columns turned on. So what I'm going to do here now is I'm going to turn off our columns for us to see what kind of a mess we would be without them. Actually, I'd really like to have the text box, but let's just see. So under our layout tab, we have columns. So this is where you can choose 1 column, 2 column, 3 columns, how we want our columns placed. So whenever you're dealing with columns, if you remember last week when we talked about the breaks and how to put in section breaks are super important. So if I turn this to 1 column, everything is going to go back in paragraph form, and there's continuous section breaks through it. So what we have here is our title, and then we have a section break. And the reason we have a continuous section break inserting here is because we're telling Word that what happens after this point is different than the layout of what happens before it. So it's just a stop. Keep everything the same for this section. This is a new section and I'm changing it up. So in this, you would have all your text and all your fonts and all your images and everything, however you had it. But once you go into just the text, I'm going to go ahead and delete the images. I keep looking at the screen from where I'm online with you guys as opposed to my Word document, so I keep missing what I'm trying to select. So once you select it, you can just go ahead and change the columns. So what selecting it does is it tells Word that we're only changing the columns for this, what's selected. So right now we're going to choose a 3 column, and we're going to select a 3 column. So once you're in here into this, there's the line features, there's ways to turn this on, there's off, there's different column options, there's more column options here, and this is where you can put the lines between. It's that little check mark. You can turn it off, but it does look really good in a letter or a newsletter, sorry. The lines do look good. So you can go and you can choose in your options to turn the lines on. You can choose the layout if you want 3 columns, 1 column, if you want to see what it looks like with 2 columns. This is all into the columns drop box here. Once you're into the more, you can choose it. This section right here, super important, apply just to this section from this point forward or to the whole document. So we're going to apply it just to the section. And you can choose if you want a narrow left column and a wide right column. You can choose all kinds of layouts and features. You can choose to have it equal width. You can choose formatting. Once you have all your columns set up and how you want your document to look, then is the good time to start inserting your graphics. Because then once you insert your graphics, you'll know exactly where to position them. So you would normally position them after your columns are turned on so that you can have it exactly where you want it, and then you would have to accept and change the layout of different things. So we just put in grab any image here. Then you would choose your layout options if you want it to go through or tight and where you want it positioned. And you would work around with it. If it says, okay, well, that's a little too big where I want it, let's change it there. Now that looks pretty catchy. And so it's really you learning how you want things and not being afraid to position it. So if you set your columns up to this level right here where you wanted it, so if we just cut that out, and this is where you want it, this would be a good time to say save it as version 2. And then when you start playing with your documents and you're putting them in and playing with them, then if you make a total mess of it, if you get your document in too much and they're covering up different places and you haven't got your alignment on properly and you can't figure out how to grab the document because now he's behind the text and you made a mess of it, well, having that version 2 saved, you could just close this one and open it up and you would be right back to this again, and then you could start over. So don't be afraid to play with it. Don't be afraid to explore what each of these little buttons do and how you want to position it, and find what works best for you, and learn how to follow the steps that they're saying. So if they're telling you specifically how wide you want a column, then you're going to have to make sure in your when you're doing your columns that you choose the width you want, which is right here. So if they're telling you specifically how wide and how much space in between columns, this is where you would alter it into this section. So that covers everything that I want to talk about here today, and I pretty much took the full hour to do that. So I'm going to